Ouch! Now that's horrible feedback. That's when the guitar is too close to the amplifier and there's the sound pressure from the speakers oscillates the strings in a horrible whining, screeching noise when you don't want it. And it's just horrible.
We are the feedback. Anything we buy, any hotel or cafe we visit, every experience we have, from a hospital appointment to the dog kennel, we're expected to rate and review. There'll be no eulogy at my funeral, just 3.5 stars, 6 likes and a bunch of negative feedback reviews, 5 of them rated as helpful. Between the Nigerian scams and the diet pills, your spam filter is clogged with feedback requests, and the demand for feedback mechanizes you. To fulfill your social network contract, you have a list of stock phrases that you copy and paste, and you apply artificiality to your own intelligence, and you learn to be like a computer. You become a human response bot. But why are they asking you? Why don't they ask someone who actually knows what they're talking about, or maybe someone who gives a fuck? Once upon a time, critic was an actual real-life job description. Budding wannabe reviewers worked their way up through journalism. They became trusted as knowledgeable experts in their fields, and then they'd find inventive and entertaining ways to praise or to admonish or suggest improvements and inform readers about what was good or bad in the world. It wasn't easy, as universal ideas of taste had to be found, agreed and applied. Mozart's music was good, William McGonagall's poetry was bad, and nobody had an opinion about all-trade adhesive duct tape. Now, the duct tape gets 4.5 stars on Amazon. 193 people have reviewed it. It's received more user insight than most novels, but then it's stickier and more useful. Professional critics are hard to find nowadays because most of them are stuck at home, chained to their laptops, 0-hour minimum wage contractor drones hired to big up products for the online marketplace. For today's critic, verified purchaser is the only expert credential needed because
the people in this country have had enough of experts.
The most terrifying thing about that is its insight, its awful truth. We really have had enough of experts. Obviously, we still want them flying our aeroplanes and diagnosing our tumours, but bugger their opinions. That's not democracy. The reason a national newspaper can get away with calling our judiciary enemies of the people is because since the advent of online consumerism, we have accepted that the only valid judgment is by the people. Not 12 peers, good and true, but hundreds, thousands, even millions. And the only validating criteria for their judgment is that they're in a wealth and age bracket that puts them online. We've become conditioned to populist ideology through the relentless drive of giant online retailers desperate to sell us stuff. Even satire, the biting funny bone of personal criticism, has been overwhelmed by the internet meme, produced, shared and adapted by hundreds of thousands of anonymous Photoshop users. They've collectively elevated the idea of the repeated joke ad infinitum ad infinitum. Now we numbly accept that judgment must be crowdsourced, despite the well-worn fallacy that shit is good because a billion flies can't be wrong. But we should probably be asking, is this really the wisdom of crowds, or is it a mob mentality? When we face the democratization of opinion, we're forced to try and understand value and worth from the massed judgments of equally ignorant amateurs. Booking a holiday, go on TripAdvisor. Now you're going to have to painstakingly trawl through hundreds of reviews. And you're trying to assess the character of each reviewer from their digital signature. With a Sherlockian eye to human psychology, you must review each reviewer. Who is holding a grudge? Who brought the rose-tinted specs? Who is petty-minded? Who is OCD about bathroom sanitation? Who got a freebie? Who's just not right? Who was paid? Who got laid? Who just wanted to get their review read, their opinion and experience verified? Who's hungry for the approval of other users? Forming judgments by aggregating judgments is exhausting, and eventually you just book based on the nice photos. No one, however well read or experienced or educated in the thing being reviewed, has a voice any louder than anyone else's. In fact, the loudest voices are the ones that game the system, who know how the machine works, who sock puppet and rate their own opinions to feature higher on the sites. So now we need to search through the 193 duct tape reviews to see if we can find someone who might have actually had a duct that needed taping. One day, we may look back and realize that critic was the first non-manual job to be wiped out by computers, not by artificial intelligence, but by a collective lack of intelligence. And yet, Even though we may have had to start thinking like machines to get our judgments heard, programmed by the system to be opinion bots, the critic, however inexpert or unpaid, may also be the last human voice to succumb to the singularity. Alan Turing proposed that a human might judge artificial intelligence successful when he or she fails to tell the difference between a computer's response and a human one. The flaw, though, was not in his understanding of computers, but of humans. The human urge to judge and be critical and superior would never allow us to admit a failure in our judgment. We love the sound of our voices too much. So it'll be our voices, our vicious little opinions and petty judgments, which will be the very last things that the robots rip from our dead larynxes.
The thing is, if you slow it down, you hear what makes the noise so annoying.
Works perfect, no complaints here. Fast and easy transaction, thank you. Great item and price, sellers prompt and delivery. Exactly as advertised. Ship super quick. Transaction perfect. Great item and price, sellers prompt and delivery. Great item and price, sellers prompt and delivery. Exact transaction, thank you. Great item and price, sellers prompt and delivery. Exactly, no complaints here. Fast and easy transaction, thank you. Great item and price, exact delivery. Exactly.